Protection is one of those words that sounds simple until you actually need it. Because most of us aren't trying to ward off something dramatic. We're just trying to figure out how to stay steady and confident in a conversation that drains us or is uncomfortable. We're trying to find a protection to trust our gut. And I couldn't think of a better person to have this conversation with than somebody who has spent decades studying, writing, and living in a world that is real and grounded. So let's get to it. So, hey, welcome everyone to Chats with Aunt Jackie, and I am here today having a deep and meaningful conversation with Judika Illes. And I just want to tell you a little bit about Judika. She is an amazing author, has decades of experience under her belt, books that she's published. She's got at least 10 books, and you know her through some books that should be on everyone's shelf, like the Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells or Pure Magic. And the thing about Judika's work is it bridges folklore and it bridges history and modern practice. Her latest creation, one of her latest creations, is a deck, protection spells. Simple enough. 36 cards of magical self-defense. And was looking at them, and it has, really decades, centuries of practical tools and how to use them. And so you can just shuffle them and pick the card out that you need. It's navigating real world challenges. And right now we have, as women, some real world challenges. We really have to focus on our power, our protection. So without further ado, here's one of my besties, Judika. Hi, Judika.
Hey, Jackie, thank you for the kind words.
So I just want to talk a little bit about, your origin story can, like mine, can go on forever. And let's talk a little bit about how you got into writing, how you got into magic, and then how you pulled into the protection world.
That's always a difficult question for me because people I'm asked that all the time and they want a good story. How did I become a witch, or how did I become interested in magic, or how did I become a writer? But I really did just sort of arrive in this plane of consciousness like that. I don't remember a time in my life when I wasn't fascinated by witchcraft and magic spells, and it was available to me. And I wouldn't call other people in my family or my family practitioners, but they were interested. And so books, we had astrology books and numerology books, and I stole my sister's tarot deck when I was 6. So it was something that was just, it was there for me, and I don't know why I loved it, but it's my true love. I don't remember a time ever since I was old enough to dress up for Halloween. I don't remember a time when I didn't dress up as a witch, ever.
I love it. I love it from your birth on. You have been a witch.
I am here to do this.
I love it. Now, so we've been in this path, this magical path, this witchcraft path for a long time. And so I'd love to get your take on how you've seen women's approach to magic change in the last few decades.
Well, there are kind of two kinds of people. There are people who are openly practitioners, and there are people who are just doing it. And I think there is more openness about people who are just doing it. At least and this is very regional. That's in the United States. Certainly maybe not true in other places. We are very lucky. You and I can have this conversation and put it out through the airways, and no one is knocking on our door to arrest us for this. So, or well, slowly or quickly. But that's not true everywhere. And that is something that changes. That is an evolving thing. What is true in one place may not be true there a few years later. And, it's very tidal. It comes and goes depending on who's in power. I would say that one of the differences in the way women practice, open practitioners, there are more forms of magic available to them because for a long time, women kind of practice household magic, low, low magic, folk magic. ceremonial magic and ritual magic was pretty much closed off for women, except as, kind of accessories. You can be my Scarlet Woman. Um, and that is not true anymore. Women can in the United States, that's what I know about. Women can practice any kind of magic they want to practice. And I think they are accepted as equals and as significant participants in any way they want to practice. And that wasn't really true even 50 years.
Today, when women talk about protection magic and wanting to bring in more protection around them, what do you really think they're talking about?
Well, I mean, I may have I don't even know what word to say. I don't know if it's an unusual perspective, but I think this is just my thoughts. I think that the practice of the magical arts in whatever form is among the earliest human behaviors. I think that we can go way back to prehistory. I taught a class last weekend, and one of the things we were discussing is that people think about we have ancestors going back 30,000 years, 50,000 years, you know? I can envision my ancestors, what people were like 2,000 years ago. You read some history books.
10,000 years ago, it was magic was 100% a way of life. It
I
was
think it is absolutely, that is our common human heritage. And protection is, I think, one of the foundational desires, foundational reasons for magic, because we have always needed protection of some kind, especially women, especially children, women protecting their children.
we have deities who are just all about that. That's their
Right,
job for
right.
specifically women and children. Protection magic and witches is that it's kind of one of the first things we learn um, in magic is to almost the first challenge that we get in like protecting ourselves, protecting our identity, or I'm thinking 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago when I started, you kept your secrets, you protected your energy.
I have a Scorpio moon. You should always keep your mouth shut. What is it? What is it? To dare, to to know, to dare, to will, to keep silent, not to expose yourself because you don't know who you can trust. I do want to say, if we're going to talk about magical protection, I want to emphasize what it can and can't do. If you are in immediate danger, if somebody's outside with a knife, or you're being stalked by someone, you should have, contact authorities. You should take physical action to protect yourself. Well, sometimes if you don't have anything else, we might find ourselves in a situation where there is no authority to help us. There is nothing else. And in those cases, protection magic is certainly better than doing nothing. And it can surprise us sometimes. That's the thing with magic. It's a mysterious art. Sometimes it works better than we expect. But sometimes it doesn't.
And protection has so many layers to it. I mean, you've got physical protection that you talked about,
Right,
and then there's the emotional and the spiritual and the mental protection.
right.
And then there's another part of protection magic that I think has gotten skewed, which is thou shalt harm none.
Well, but that only applies to Wiccans. There's this assumption in America that everybody is a Wiccan and the Wiccan read applies to everyone.
We have to absolutely talk about that.
So I am not an initiated Wiccan, first of all. But I have to tell you that it's very much there is a very ethical witchcraft in America. We can't do this, you can't do that. I get a lot of flack because I have love spells in my book. How can you do that? But I read if you go back and read the Greco-Roman spells from Alexandria from the early, the centuries right before and after the Common Era, they were mean. The first time I read them, I was so shocked. This is not what I was taught. But this is really the first time in history where we are bending over as much as we can to be nice. I you have to sort of behave in an ethical way. You have to cast spells from love and respect and a desire for protection rather than a desire to harm. You have to be able to, you used the word discernment before, and I love that. But I don't know that harm none is even a possible thing. If you desperately need a job and you cast some employment spells and you get that job, somebody else did.
Yeah, it's everything in life, but that's
Oh,
everything
we
in
all
life.
have stuff like that.
It's like even when you have a boundary, which I think is a huge part of protection, is understanding your boundaries. Somebody's not going to like it. Somebody might get harmed because you won't do for them because you have a boundary about it.
That is a very paralyzing thing to worry too much about what other people like. When someone is, I mean, talking about physical protection, but also magical or spiritual protection, if you are under attack and you're really in trouble, at that moment you can't really worry what somebody else is going to say about you on Facebook. I always liken it to someone who loves cats but gets them declawed. But because I'm a good witch, I'm a declawed witch. I won't, harm me and I won't scratch you. Well, I'm always saying this. I don't know if people get it. I love movies where the witches don't apologize. I love an unrepentant witch. I get very impatient with, I wish I was, not of the Zodiac Club. I wish I was, celebrating Christmas at home with my tree, or I wish I was a housewife washing dishes. Well,
What's interesting is I'm seeing out in the world, not to get political, I'm just watching human behavior. Other women are outing the insert of different patriarchal ideals that women are keeping on themselves. Like they're how to keep women smaller. Like, okay, so for instance, when I was younger, we had a very short list of what we could be when we grew up.
but yeah. And I'm older than you, I think. So
Yeah. So
you
you could
could
be
be
a
a nurse,
teacher, a nurse,
could be a secretary.
and then later on maybe you could be a social worker, but everything is in service to others.
I will say my mother, and this is going back to 1960 something, my mother told me, I may have looked longingly at a nurse doll, and she said, well, if you want to do that, go be a doctor.
I love her. Oh,
So,
I love
so,
her.
so there were always people. There were always people.
And so when we talk about different types of protection and some of the first things we learned, and then knowing that if you're protecting yourself or if you're doing something for your highest good or not even for your highest good, for your good, it's nobody else's business. And really, are you really harming someone else? I can't tell you how many people have had to talk off the ledge on having money spells because it might harm somebody. I'm like,
Well, I think the television show Charmed, which I watched and I enjoyed, really did a disservice because a lot of people, I was lucky. I learned about witchcraft from books, and then I lived in an area with a lot of witch shops and botanicas, and I would go in and look longingly at the proprietors were very nice to me, and so I learned, and then I learned, and then I made friends, and I learned from other people. But a lot of people, depending where you live, you learn about magic and witchcraft from television and movies, and it's not real. And the thing that you have to know about Charmed is it wasn't put on by practitioners; it's put on by Hollywood people. And so that whole thing, for people who are not familiar with Charmed, there's a common theme. So it's these three magical sisters, but they cannot use their powers for personal gain, or terrible things will happen. But I want to tell you one of my favorite stories about where magic comes from. And I tell this all the time because I think it really makes the point. It's an ancient Egyptian creation story. And in this creation story, the creator, because there are many Egyptian creation stories, but in this one, the creator has created the universe, looks out over creation, and realizes that everything will not be good. Especially human beings are destined for heartbreak. And so and the creator feels bad. And so the very last creation is so ancient Egyptian, like other Semitic languages, has no vowels, but we call it Heka, Heka, and that is magical energy. It's not a spell, that is the current of energy that runs through the world and can be used for spells. And it was created specifically to help human beings ward off the harsh blows of fate. It is all for personal gain.
I love it.
I do too. It's my favorite. And when I tell that to people, they get it.
One of the first things I talk in a magic class is that forget what they said in Charmed, because really, the only magic you can do is for yourself. If you try and do spells for other people, it's going to just go right up to their limitation, their beliefs, their thought processes, whatever lesson they're going through.
Listen, it's hard to cast spells for yourself. It is even more hard to cast it for other people because there's so much going on under the surface and unconscious desires and conscious. And it is really, and one of the things you have to do is explore your desires and, you know, goals. Why do you want this? Because often we ask for things we don't really want. What we want is someone's approval. We want a relationship to work. So we're asking for things that we don't really want. It's like driving with the parking brake on. It's hard.
Yeah. And so with that, we start to live in the should. I should be doing this. I should be doing this. I should fit into this role. And as women right now in the US, many of us are breaking out and realizing how many constraints have been put on us. And even though we thought we broke out of it before, we're breaking out again. So when we talk about protection, I think what we're really asking for is our power.
Well, that is what magic is all about anyway. Magic, I mean, and I think that is why witchcraft and magic has gotten a bad rap over centuries. I mean, there is a tendency, it's a tendency to blame Christianity for everything, but ancient Rome was very magic unfriendly. Pretty much any political state, any authority, because magic is about doing what's best for you. That is the goal of, if you look at 5,000 spells, it's divided into topics. There are protection spells, there's love spells, there's money spells, prosperity spells, because prosperity and money are not exactly the same thing. But protection is one of the major things in magic. And I mean, it applies to everyone. It applies to everyone.
The protection deck that I'm a little bit in love with. And you have another one that came out too, right? That's
2025 at this advanced age, I became a deck creator. This is the Magic Spells Oracle. This is the Protection Spells. And I have another deck coming in September, Prosperity Spells, which is the same style as Protection. Protection Spells it's a really pared down 36 cards. There's no book. Magic Spells Oracle does have a book. It's never too late.
no, no, I love it.
I wanted to make it easy and I wanted to make it transportable. I mean, here, where's 5,000? I have a copy of 5,000 Spells someplace here, but for the people who don't know, 5,000 Spells is a 1,000-page book. It's huge. The original edition was over £5. Amazon wouldn't do free shipping. So, I mean, there's a lot of protection spells in there. But you gotta pull out the book. And what I envisioned was someone in a hotel room who was scared. And so what we did, it's a very inexpensive deck. It's a very inexpensive deck. It's little. You can put it in your purse, put it in your pocket. It's got 36 cards, and you can look at it as a little course in protection magic. So there are different ways of using it. You can, let's just say you're nervous and you don't know why you're nervous. You shuffle up the cards, you pull one, and maybe it'll give you direction. And everything, all the spells are very accessible. They're all inexpensive. There's a spell in here that uses salt and pepper packets from like.
I think we talked about little things to do while you're traveling, and we both talked about different protection things or cleansing things. Because I think cleansing is a part of protecting too. Because when you're feeling overwhelmed, I know I was talking about the salt, and you brought the pepper into the conversation, and that always stuck with me. So when I'm traveling, I hang on to those salt and peppers because,
Right.
and tell us why. I don't want to steal your thunder.
So sometimes like it'll just point you in the direction, and it might tell you, you might feel this is the spell I want to cast because there are instructions for the 36 spells. But also, Maybe it'll just give you a direction. This is what I should be nervous about now. Or you can read it like a book. I mean, she was talking about tarot, but Rachel Pollack commented that cards are an unbound book and you can rearrange the pages. So you could read this and get a quick course on protection magic. But it's really interesting because the deck has really been embraced and people have been telling me what they're doing with it. So Elisa Einhorn, the author, I mean, so here, let me show you. The backs have snakes. That's why they scare some people because they are aggressively protective creatures. And on the other side, there's like spell information. But Elisa started reading the snakes. She's reading the back of the cards, like which way are the snakes? Because they're a little different. They're not the same. They're snakes and moons.
It's a two for Oracle.
It's a twofer, which we didn't realize. See, here's another one. So she's
Amazing.
reading which way is the snake pointing, or all sorts of what phase of the moon is it. There's all kinds of stuff there. They're also an inexpensive deck. People have been leaving cards in like ladies' bathrooms and bars, just randomly, which I really like because somebody needs that card.
This is our community, right? This is how
Right.
we support each other in different
Yeah.
unique ways.
I love that the leaving cards in like library books or places, bus stations, places perceived as
That whoever picks it up,
dangerous.
I hope whoever picks it up gets it in the intention it was served.
In the assumption that you cannot do a card reading wrong. If you pull a card, whatever card you pull is the right card. And so if you leave it someplace, it will go to the right person somehow.
I had epiphany the other day. So you ask a question. So you're going to shuffle your cards and you're going to ask your question. I'm going to ask a question about this issue. And then what card am I going to cut to? And there's an expectation in your head. And when you cut to that card, it's never it. And so stopping that expectation of what kind of answer am I going to get? But, what's the story?
I used to be a person with a lot of fears, and there are different ways. When you're really afraid, it's a very tangible thing. So, and I have, you know, faced and sort of overcome a lot of my fears, maybe most of my fears. But to some extent, fear is also our friend. You don't want to totally get away with it because fear is what alerts you to danger. You don't want to be paralyzed by it and you don't want it to control you. But when you have but if you're not controlled by it and you get that little prickle up your neck, that's telling you to watch out.
And there's a difference between fears and doubts, fears and issues, and I'm learning a lot of that right now because I have a whole new pocket of doubts in my
There's a
life.
lot of things to be afraid of.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know we're talking about magical protection is really sometimes the only thing that will save you from a danger of spiritual or magical origin. There's a lot of physical danger out there. We can't, there are women every day. Right now, there is some woman being beaten up by a significant other. Right now, there is a woman vanishing and so the crimes against women, we don't have a crime of femicide in the United States, but we certainly experience it.
In certain ethnic groups within the United States are disappearing without, like indigenous women are disappearing without comment.
Well, official comments.
Official comment, yeah.
I mean, people can commenting within the community that
Okay,
the
just like,
authorities are not doing anything.
right, when
Well, we
there's,
don't know. We don't know. It is not given as much publicity as it should
no,
have. It's not news.
no. And when it does become news, there is like, for instance, if a white child goes missing, there's a ton of news. If a black child goes missing, there's a ton of judgment.
Yes.
And I've watched it. I've watched the people around me. I've watched how I was conditioned and I had to uncondition myself. I had to deprogram myself.
Right.
And I feel fortunate because I created 3 decades of a woman focused business
Right.
where majority women interact mostly with women. And so when a man showed up into my business as a vendor or a customer and they behaved poorly, I'm like, you're out of here, because I created that protection and that power and that authority in my life. So wanting to really zero in on more protection magic for women, you have a ton of stuff in your books, and you have the protection deck. And what is maybe one of the simple, crucial things that a woman can do to make sure they have an aura of protection around them, as well as pulling their power back to them?
I'll give you a simple exercise, but I will give you a bigger one also. I think protection magic is a way of life. It is something you do every day. I would ask people to, in a quiet moment, ask themselves, what makes you feel safe? I am always covered amulets that maybe don't look like amulets. People, a lot of amulets just look like jewelry. And different types, you've got your evil eye protection, you've got your spiritual protection, your magical protection. Uh, Bathe in salt. That is very, very protective. A very simple thing to do is at the beginning of the day, depending on your schedule, when take 2 minutes, either when you get up or maybe right before you go to sleep, and speak to yourself. Give yourself very simple in the present. Magic spells are always cast in the present tense. So if you don't know what to say, use a Motown song because they are also always in the present tense. I am safe. I protect myself. I am protected. Whatever it is that makes you feel safe, just repeat it to yourself. And if you do it daily, you will build up that aura. For me, I invoke Michael Archangel twice a day, and I've been doing it. I had a time in my life going back to the late 80s when I really did feel very endangered. I was in a work environment that was not safe. And a friend taught me the invocation of Michael. And I'll tell it to you now. I mean, I know it by heart. Michael to the right of me, Michael to the left of me, Michael before me, Michael behind me, Michael above me, Michael below me, Michael within me, Michael all around me. Michael, with your with your flaming sword of cobalt blue, protect me now, or protect me whenever. And this is your opportunity to, protect me, protect my child, protect my lover, protect my dog. I mean, whoever it is that you are, you know, protect my unborn child, whatever it is that you need, and really envision yourself in that cobalt blue bubble. Imagine Glinda's pink bubble from The Wizard of Oz, but in cobalt blue. It is bulletproof. They can't see in. You can see out. I caution you that Michael Archangel is the only sacred being that I would allow within myself. That's not something I would do with anyone else. But Michael, and I visualize it when I'm doing it. I do it twice a day, and it really does give me confidence. There are all kinds of other spells you can do if you're afraid. Mirror boxes to keep yourself safe, to keep others out. This, that's a little more sophisticated. But I mean, they are affirmations. Just a little bit you're brainwashing yourself. But a lot of, I mean, if you think, what is a magic spell? It is changing reality. Envision yourself, you're driving down a road, and all of a sudden you see this detour. They're taking you someplace you don't want to go, and you just decide you're not going there, and you're doing this instead. Even if you have to carve out your own damn road, that's a magic spell. I'm not doing this. I am doing that. So
I love that you talked about it's constant, it's a mindset, you're programming yourself. That's a big part of magic because you're shifting your brain first, but it is a daily commitment. You have I
Yeah.
forgot how much protection magic I have in my daily life. Like, okay, so I have my necklaces that I wear, my evil eye on my office door. I have my evil eye on my front door. I have it actually I have it on my working altar. I have all these different areas, and I'm like, oh, I have a prosperity altar that has a protection element to it.
Right, because you have to protect your prosperity.
Yeah. And then also, I also know that if I take it too far, then I can put myself in a cage.
Things, spells. You have to trust yourself and your intuition. And you have to be able to gauge, not everybody's intuition is great. So if your intuition is not great, then you can work on healing it and improving it. And why is someone's intuition not great? Well, maybe they've been abused all their life and they've been told they're stupid. They've been told they don't know anything. They've been gaslit. They're traumatized from various, that fear that the trigger causes something and you can't think. And your intuition is not. And that's, that's nothing to be ashamed of. That's something to heal. And magic can help you with that. But if your intuition is good, trust it. You don't have to trust everybody.
And that self trust is learned. In many ways, it's learned because we're
Taught
told,
not to trust.
we're taught how not to trust
Go
ourselves.
with them, they're so nice. And then they turn out not to be that nice. And you come home and you say, well, they weren't nice. And then you're told you're wrong. What did you do?
So, since we're coming to the end of the show, and I could talk to you for another 7 hours, let's talk about where people can find you, find your work. What would you like to promote out in the world right now?
Oh, my books are available wherever books are sold pretty much. Knock on wood, I'm very lucky. You can find my books online in bookstores. I have a new deck coming out in the fall, Prosperity Spells. That sort of will be very similar to protection spells. I don't know. We'll do cleansing spells next. You inspired me, Jackie. Cleansing, cleansing. We can come back and talk about cleansing one day.
Talk, I got a ton of them.
But yeah, cleansing is so important. But just writing and editing and I did an event last weekend and who knows, maybe I'll go out and teach more.
I love
What
it.
happens?
If somebody wants to get in touch with you, how would they look you up?
You can find me on Facebook. That's probably the best place to find me. But I'm on Instagram. I'm still on Twitter.
I never got it. But now, if you want to find me, Jackie Smith, you can find me at auntjackie.com. And you can find me on all the social medias. There's a lot of Jackie Smiths in this world. Mine is without an E. And so just look for this face on wherever you are. And if you want to book a reading with me to talk about your own protection, go into a Akashic session, you can find that at auntjackie.com. And I am in love with spending time with you. So we're going to have to do this again.
It was fun. It
So
was
thank you
very fun.
everybody who joined us. And hey, like and share this show. It helps us get more listeners. And if you're on YouTube, hit the buttons. And then we're also on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and I'm now on ParaX on Sundays. So it's a half-hour show on ParaX, but you get the full show on YouTube. I'm so happy to have you here with us, and I can't wait to talk to you some more. And until next time, everybody, have a lovely day and continue to chat with Aunt Jen.